Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshall. Thank you for listening to Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Evan Knox, and he's the founder of Caffeine Marketing. And today, we're going to talk about the resilience he had to go through, which inspired him to start this business. Hey, Evan, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Evan. Like she said, I'm the founder of Caffeine Marketing. I've been doing marketing since I was 12 years old, helping my grandfather make little leaflets that we were going to make as mailers. But I've been actually doing this as a business for over 3 years, and I'm really excited to be here hanging out with you guys today.
I think that's really cool. So what did you said you've just doing caffeine marketing for 3 years. What prompted you to do this?
Yeah.
You said your grandfather had a lot to do with your interest in marketing.
Yeah, he did. So if we go back, I had always loved entrepreneurship and business, and not to sound cliche, but was that kid with the lemonade stand, and eventually had the lawn company, and I had my own branding for it. Yeah, oh yeah, and I would drive door to door and put little flyers out in mailboxes, and ended up trying to hire all my friends. And anyway, long story short. So I've always been in business at some form or fashion. I'm not sure I ever paid taxes on those companies, so I don't know if that's legit. But I grew up loving business, and I grew up loving entrepreneurs because not only was my grandfather an entrepreneur, but my dad was, and so was my grandfather's family. So I'm the fourth generation entrepreneur. I've always had a heart for them, and I really know what it's like to experience the other side, the family side, and be the dad who has to work extra hours to try to make sales goals so that, we can pay our mortgage, or our car loan or whatever that was at the time. So I've experienced that side of it, and I just really developed a heart for other business owners, and wanted to help them, grow their company, and marketing felt like the best first step in how to do that.
And marketing is a lot. Well, I have a degree in marketing, right? And it's a lot different now. I graduated from Wisconsin a long time ago. It's a lot different now, but I think you have to be adaptable. I think it did.
Yeah.
It just changes constantly, and there's so much rapid change, right?
Oh yeah.
Constantly. And I think it's important to be flexible. And I think that's why I started this podcast. It's kind of an offshoot of my book that I wrote after I had cancer. And I had a couple times but I'm like, it makes you stop and think. I was a corporate person, right? Because when I got out of college, the thing was, you got to get a corporate. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And being a girl,
well, even backing up, you have to go to college. That was that is mandatory almost.
Right. And it's in it, but I don't, to me, it's just so crazy how it is. And I think personally, the stress sometimes, especially I thought it was stressful in a corporate environment. It does affect your well-being a little bit. And I think that's why health and wellness is really popular with corporations. But I like the freedom now, having my own business. To me, it's a lot of freedom, even though I know what, it's hard work regardless if you're independent or working for somebody, but I would much rather have the freedom. And after having cancer again, I'm like, I'm going to do my own thing now. And that's
time is so short. Absolutely.
Right. And it happens so quickly. And so you said your dad was an entrepreneur too. What kind of business did he have? I know you said you're in marketing, but what did your father have or do?
Yeah, great question. And maybe that'll set us up for where we're going as well. So my dad grew up working in my granddad's jewelry store. And so my dad saw an opportunity in there. And while he was a partner with my granddad at one point, he also started his own diamond wholesale company. So he saw a gap in the supply chain. I guess not so much supply chain, but in the business model. And he thought, you know what, if I can go directly to the source, to the there's a company around here called Shaneco. It was we're direct diamond importers. It's a radio thing that they say. Well, that was kind of what he was doing. He would go over to Israel and find the diamonds himself and build those relationships. And so he was able to, get really affordable prices on really high quality diamonds, and created his own wholesale diamond business. kind of as an entrepreneur from my grandfather's company.
So he'd sell his diamonds to other, but was he like imported them? I'm just kind of is that what
trying to understand it. Yeah, totally. So yes, and so he would either, it's possible he would sell it to other jewelry companies.
Okay.
Or, a lot of the times he would use that relationship if he was working sales at my grandfather's store.
Okay.
So, that was really cool to see. But, unfortunately, my dad passed away 3 years, and he talked about resiliency. Like, man, that was a hard thing to overcome, right? And maybe that's why I feel so connected to the entrepreneur out there, is that
right.
I'm like, and I couldn't, at 12 years old, I couldn't help my dad and my granddad the way that I wanted. Just didn't know, right? Like all I had was like one Dave Ramsey book that I was reading when I was 12. But now I can at least help entrepreneurs out there who are dads or granddads or moms or grandmothers or whatever,
I think it's good just because there's so much, like I said earlier, it's a lot of changes and turmoil, and people need to understand how they can make a lot of people talking about your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, I'm involved in print management and project management and books. That's because when I was younger, I was obsessed with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's something creative, right? And that's what I like to do. But even though I have a degree in marketing, I don't really use it, but it did help me understand how the process works. And it's really good. So what kind of, your typical client, are they smaller businesses, I'm assuming?
Yeah, great question. And I even, like you mentioned, almost like resilience and marketing almost kind of go hand in hand, because like you said, it changes so much. The core principles of marketing, they almost never change, right? You want somebody, no one's going to work with you unless they're aware of your brand and your business. So that's like the first step of marketing. And then next is like helping them consider your product or reminding them who you are. And so, and then ultimately, hopefully they come farther down the funnel and turn into a customer. But the actual ways that we do that change all the time, quarter to quarter. And so whenever we're setting goals for either our clients or even internally, we have to look at, hey, what's this quarter in light of our year goals, but like, what do we want to do this quarter? Because if we say, hey, we want to have this like social media metric for the next year, like we want to have this social media metric done, like engagements or impressions or, like a podcast download or something like that. Like that landscape could completely change in the next 6 months. So you have to be kind of resilient and keep learning all the time. So there's definitely you have to always go back to learning more. So typical clients that we work with at Caffeine, or they're at least doing $200,000 or more in revenue. Typically they're under, $10,000 or so in revenue a year. But I would say, yes, technically they're small companies, but they're not necessarily solo entrepreneurs.
Gotcha.
They have some margin. They do have an existing business, but we're just helping them take it to the next level.
And that's the key, is to get past, the first couple of years.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
And the only reason I became independent is I have clients who've known me for many years, who trusted me and convinced me. And I did this, started my company, going through cancer treatment the last time.
Goodness.
But it's like, why do I need right, time is short. And then I never thought I would do podcasting, never came to mind, only because I was a guest on other podcasts. I'm like, I like this. And that's kind of how and it's growing. And it's about, I had to focus on something, and it's about resilience. And there's so many aspects to life that, I see a lot of people stressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I try to talk about, not me, but the guests talk about that. It's not just about your having a health issue. It's just about the environment you're in and how to deal with that. And I'm sorry, I'm talking more than you.
No, that's great.
This is great to have this conversation. So do you have like a team of people helping you, or obviously you're not a solopreneur like me?
Yeah. So that's a great question, but you made me think of, and I just want to hit on this. This guy named Viktor Frankl, and he talks about, he created this idea of logotherapy. And essentially that man's chief like desire is to have purpose in life. So above
Right.
pleasure, above everything else, it's to have some sort of calling or meaning in life. And so the thing that helps me be resilient, I feel like, I've got a written down personal mission statement to me that's bigger than business, but business is a part of fulfilling that mission statement.
Right.
And so all of those things, I have to find a purpose in order to overcome resilience. Just like, when my dad was struggling with substance abuse, in those moments, I was like, something has to be redeeming about this, that maybe, that tied back to my personal faith in that moment. Like, can God use this in some way to
Right.
help somebody else? So there has to be something resilient about that. But our company, typically it depends on the project. We run a pretty lean team, and that's what gives us the ability to like offer a really high quality product for our clients as far as marketing goes, but also like at a reasonably affordable rate. Is that we are all remote workers, and there's about 7 or 8 of us.
Oh, that's cool.
So I get to handle a lot of the project management, and intake clients. But yeah, I don't always execute like websites and stuff like that.
That's really cool. So you're all remote in Atlanta, or?
So I've got, we've got people in Atlanta. We'll certainly use people in Utah. We've got friends there in
Wow.
Colorado. So it just kind of depends on the project for sure.
That's really cool. Right. Just and that's like with individualized for health, individualized for your marketing. It depends on what the needs are of your client and what their end customers are. That's why you're probably good at project management, because you got to be able to look at the big picture, right?
Yeah.
And figure out the steps to make it happen. And you have to be, that's one thing I think people, you have to be flexible, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what I've learned in life. Because even though I had all these certain goals, I didn't meet them. But like you, I have a purpose of my business is to help others. And the podcasting was like something that I enjoy doing, like talking, as you can tell. But that is, so what is your, an example of is it the type of, is it your clients have products or do they have services? It doesn't matter, right? I was just curious.
Yeah. That's a great question. So kind of the principles that I was referring to earlier, they work across the board. Now, the complexity of how you'll do that for any particular client varies. So, we're not really set up in a way that we could support a company that's, doing like $200, $300 million a year in revenue. The complexity of marketing at that level is different.
Right.
You're essentially adding multiple layers. And then not only are you adding multiple layers to a funnel, you're also doing multiple different platforms. So, that's kind of what disqualifies us. If we're doing something $200-300 million in revenue, that's most likely not a good fit for us. Where we fit really well is that we take a look at a small business or small company, and we're looking at, hey, our goal is to create a winning sales funnel. So from the top to the bottom, we want to figure out what is the best way to get you new customers in a way that's going to be highly profitable for you. Now that varies. You talked about bigger, high level strategy stuff. That's my favorite. And that's what I feel like one of the things that makes Caffeine unique is that we only work with people that I know it's going to be profitable. And we also start with a marketing strategy session. So, I'm trying to figure out, hey, what's going to be the most profitable thing for them? And then we'll start with that. Now that typically ends up, being some sort of combination of ads at the very top of the level. That's not to say that we wouldn't do anything traditional like a billboard or some sort of other mailer, but that's typically not the best option typically. But then we would look at, that's a top of the funnel brand awareness. And then we're going to figure out all the dots all the way through the funnel to move them from aware of your company or client or whoever, then to actual customers. So that could be some sort of lead generating PDF on a website. That could be a landing page. That could be a webinar. And then a series of emails that are going to onboard them into new customers. You could even get really complex and add things like chat bots and Facebook Messenger bots if you wanted. But all the principles work across the board pretty much for, B2B, B2C, service-based education, same principles, different tools for each one, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. Yeah, it's good that you narrow it down a little bit to what kind of client, because that will help you succeed in
Hmm.
providing what they need, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what some people. That's kind of what I didn't like about working at the big big company. That's what my experience is.
Yeah.
I had some serious quotas that I had to.
I believe it.
Yeah, and I was very successful, but it's extremely stressful, and that's kind of why my
Yeah.
tagline is I help others from surviving to thriving, right? That's what I
Love
kind of.
that.
Yeah, it's important to take a step back, and like you mentioned, your principles, and that's kind of your business is part of filling that. Do you?
Hmm.
I'm assuming you make time. I'm assuming for downtime to take care of yourself, because I like to run. That's my thing. That's
Oh, that's
very
great. Yeah.
distressing for me.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that you do on a regular basis?
Yes, I do. I'm a little obsessed with performance hacking. So,
Ah, okay.
uh, the people around me, if they heard me say that, they'd roll their eyes because this is like all I talk about. And if if you were in the room right now, you would see all the devices that I have on that are like tracking my sleep, my heart rate, my variable heart rate. So I care a lot about rest. I care about it in the way of having downtime for my family. So I typically, I don't take any calls or, I try not to bring work home or even have meetings after 4 p.m. I try to be home.
Right.
And I try to, I'm also, working out right when I get home, hopefully before my family gets home. But then not only am I like trying to work out, but I'm trying to like make the sleep that I get the very best sleep possible
Right.
because I work 6 days a week. But the day that I take that like completely, I shut everything off. But then I also I try to be really dialed in on my sleep and nutrition and all these other categories of my life so that when I come to like the 6th day of the work week, I don't feel exhausted. I don't feel absolutely worn down. But I think that ultimately comes down to self-awareness. But I also love this new thing I started. It's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's like a part of what people who do MMA and UFC use.
Right.
But it's been a fun hobby to get up in the morning at 6 a.m. and go fight not random people, but people at this gym who are also training. It's an
Right.
interesting creative release for sure. Because all you're thinking is there's a person in front of me who is trying to put me into like a form of submission, whether that's like a choke or an armbar or something like that. I want to get away from that. Like I'm not thinking about a business or anything like that. I'm thinking about survive and thrive in this moment.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of funny. You do it first thing in the morning. That's good. It gets your mindset ready for the day.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, I just beat some guy up who I didn't beat him up, but
Right. I
like,
know what
there's
you're
no
saying.
hitting, but like, let's just say I did pretty well in some sort of like, we call it rolling. So I was like, I just rolled with some guy who was 30 pounds heavier than I am and a belt above me. I did pretty good, So I'm like shooting out emails with a whole new level of confidence the rest of the day.
I love
So
it. It does
yeah,
it gives you confidence. And I think
yeah,
that's why we do that in movement. And like you said, the tracking devices, the movement just helps. You don't want to be sedentary. People don't realize how our
yeah.
bodies really weren't meant to be so sedentary all the
Hmm.
time. And people, because I'm in almost my mid 50s here, people think I'm crazy
Yeah,
because I like to run. But I've always enjoyed it, and I do it because I still can.
yeah,
And I don't do jujitsu like you,
yeah,
but I do, light weights, and I like going to the gym because to take
yeah,
group classes, unlike
yeah.
BARRE.
Oh
You don't
yeah.
realize how hard that is.
I've done, I went to, it was kind of a bet. Like me and
Uh-huh.
two other guys were like, oh, it's probably really easy. And then our friend who worked there, she was like, come to Pure Bar.
Right,
Uh,
right,
and we went and we were totally emasculated. Like we were like,
right.
wow, like I can't lift these 5-pound weights anymore. Like
it's
can't do it.
it's really good for stretching and building strength with light. But I used to be,
Yeah.
when I was young, I was a gymnast, and in my mind, I'm
Yeah.
still that gymnast.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. I try to do that kind of different things and try, like you said, try different things. And with
Yeah.
running, as you age, I have to yin and yang. I have to make sure I do yoga and
Yeah.
stretching. But it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and it
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it reduces or produces those feel good hormones. You know what I'm saying?
It does. And it also, so like, I consider myself a runner too, but not quite at your level. I only trail run.
Right.
I did road running for a while, but I just only trail run now whenever I go out.
Yeah, I prefer trail running. Yes.
Yeah, it's very, relaxing and meditative. But not only that, it also, like, when you build strength and when you work out, you actually get better sleep. And it
Yes.
helps with your hormone regulation. So it's like, hey, there's a physiological benefit to this that helps me be more resilient if I take care of my body by working out.
I like the way you're saying that. That's really good. I like how you're explaining it better than I can right now. But it is, as people just, I think it's all about for your lifestyle. To me, keeping it, finding something that you like and it's important to you, but try to keep it simple at the same time, because otherwise, if you have too much, it's not going to get done. And then you get people tend. I'm guilty in the past of trying to do too much. And like I had mentioned, that the big quotas that I had to do, and raising children. I don't know if you have any children now. Do you have?
I've got a 6-month-old, so
Right,
we're just now into that season. Yeah.
Right. And so I think about back in the day where I had to travel. I was the one traveling, not my husband.
Wow.
And we had 2 sons, and that was fun. I mean, but it was good, but it's a juggle. And so and then this will be our 32nd year we've been married. Right.
Wow.
But it's because we support each other, and we do like to hike and walk a lot. My husband's a hockey player, but he doesn't run, but he's really tall and walks really fast. So I joke that's my training, because I'm short.
Yeah.
I have to keep up with him, as that helps me with running.
That's great. I love that.
I mean, but that's something that's, as you'll understand when you get a little bit older, to do things together as well.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming your 6-month-old is a boy. Yeah, and that's you'll find what things that they're good in, and it's just so exciting that you're doing this. And I like your attitude, and you understand the resilience that is required. Yeah. You're combining it with exercise and taking time for yourself, and applying it to your business. And who knows what's going to happen right in the next couple of years, because it's just, I don't know. I try not to, I don't know about you. I don't watch the news. I always try to look at the positive aspect for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it sounds like you're very similar.
Yeah. And it almost like, one definitely continue your thought there, but like, I think we live in an information overload.
Yes.
And so it's almost like, hey, like, honestly, the news stuff is like, I can Google it if I hear someone in the hallway being like, hey, you need to, like, did you hear about this? Like, all of a sudden, this is kind of awful. And I hate to admit this in public, but like when Trump got impeached, I was like, oh, that like actually happened? And I was like, oh, wow, okay.
I didn't watch it. Right.
I guess I'll Google that now,
Right.
So.
And I think you're right. It's too much information overload. And I think they are, even though I'm part of it, I couldn't say I'm part of the media business. They're talking about the wrong stuff. They're not focusing on what's important. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, totally.
And then people are just frustrated. And if they just go out and run and exercise, they wouldn't. I mean, it just helps.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my experience. But yeah, I try not to focus on that. I try to help everybody in a positive manner, and look at alternatives if you have to. Yeah. And I think it's so great. And I definitely want to stay connected. Can you tell everybody where they can find more information about you?
Great question. So whether that be, my company, Caffeine Marketing, or I'm building a new course for entrepreneurs and business owners, which I'm really excited about. I'm also a partner in a fly fishing guide business. And so if you want that release into the outdoors, that's a great option. You can find all of that at evanknox.com. It's just EVAN and KNOX.com. And it should have links to those different outlets.
Oh, my younger son is really big into fishing, so I'm having to check it up.
I don't know. Yeah, he'd love it.
I don't know if it's specifically fly fishing, but I'm getting off tangent here, but he doesn't like fishing on the ocean. He likes on the lake.
That's great.
We live by Lake Altoona, so that he grew up in that environment, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So I'll definitely have him check it out. Again, Evan, I thank you so much for your time, and have a great day, everybody.